Okay. Okay, I'm Matt. I work in The Guardian, as Simon explained. I manage all the sort of front-end presentation tier for the website. And like pretty much every project I've worked on, we've got this challenge of creating a simple, sustainable code base. And so the last couple of projects I've walked into have sort of seen the current system as monoliths. It's like a dirty word. And so the Resolute builds something simpler. And so you start off week by week starting with a nice simple framework, following the best architectural practices, and then you pile on more developers and more features, and it gets a bit of pace, and you just end up growing and growing and growing. As we've been thinking very hard about how to avoid that. So I was watching the Royal Institute Christmas lecture for 11-year-olds on biology, and I came across this concept of apoptosis, I think it's pronounced, which comes from the Greek word of falling off or dropping off. And so we thought applying those principles to the software we write was actually worth experimenting with. So this is our project commits divided into additions above the line and deletions below the line. I suspect most of your projects look the same. In week after week, we're adding a whole lot more stuff than we are getting rid of. So no amount of refactoring or architectural principles will sort of prevent you ending up with a giant code base at the end of it, I feel. Or at least as you add more and more and more, the ratio of your developers typically stays, or the number of developers stays the same. So on a week-by-week basis, I see these three things being added to the project. The problem with the first one is you don't really know if it's going to provide long-term benefit until it's 6 months' time. The problem with the second one is, actually it's not a problem, but the problem with the second one is you want to get rid of it as soon as it's not needed anymore. So typically applies to a lot of the commercial stuff we do. It's sort of very contractual based, but more often than not, someone will write the code, stick it in the code base, and 2 years later, it will still be there, chugging away, doing nothing apart from getting in the way. And the last one is more a point about software that doesn't sort of have set boundaries and stand its ground on what it should do, ends up following the same pattern of just growing and growing and growing beyond its sort of original remit. You say yes to everything, and your code base just grows week by week by week. So as we were talking about this over lunch, we came across this idea that we've got dozens, if not hundreds, of feature switches, or mandating everything from performance to user-facing features to, you see some of the ones here, analytics and A/B tests, and everything we do gets shipped behind a feature switch and then turned on and turned off. So that was a natural point to start to apply this idea of, can the software essentially kill itself? Can it drop off our code base automatically when it's not needed anymore? So most of our code base is in Scala, but the first thing we did was add to our model, you see the release switch message here, this idea of a sell-by date. So when it becomes midnight on the 1st of April, that is, this particular switch will stop working, it will turn itself off in front of the user. So that solves half the problem of getting rid of the software, making that making that feature invisible to the user. And the second bit on this last line is essentially forcing that. This is running as part of our unit testing suite. So every time you run the unit tests for the presentation to The Guardian, we check all the features, have any expired, and it fails. And failure means we don't produce the artifact. It means you can't deploy, the builds go red. And so we essentially kill off the software and force people to have a conversation about its value and its place. So on that note, we've had this running in the code base for a couple of months, I guess, and we've probably killed off 25 or so different features. Some of them were temporary sort of A/B test things. Some of them were features that people thought they wanted, but when questioned, it didn't really transpire that they needed it anymore. We've had a couple of problems where we've questioned the value of such a thing that was only meant to be there till the middle of February, but it's very easy to say, can we extend it by a week? Can we extend it by a week? Can we extend it by a week? And then you end up not caring. And so it's trying to embed that culture within the teams that isn't afraid to ask these sort of questions. So that's really it. It's finding its way into other ideas in the software as well, where some of the tools that we're producing that let you create parts of the website with the editorial also have this idea that they disappear after a while. But essentially, that's it. That's the idea. I don't know if that's been 5 minutes, but
brilliant. Thanks very much.